So in this video we'll be looking at how to work out the perimeter of a 2D shape. So before we get started, let's have a look at the definition of what the perimeter actually is. So the perimeter of a shape is the shortest distance around a 2D shape. It is often calculated by adding the lengths of the edges or the sides of a shape together. So as you can see in the 5 shapes you can see on your screen, so the perimeter would be the total of all of the lengths of the shape. So from the rectangle it'll be adding these 4 sides together. For the triangle, it'll be adding those 3 sides together. For the parallelogram, it's adding those 4 sides together. For the circle, it's a case of working out the perimeter, the circumference rather. And for this L shape or compound shape, it'll be adding this side plus 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 this side, and adding those sides together. Now the method to find the perimeter of a shape can be done quite simply. So all you need to do here is make sure that you label each of the sides or the edges of the shape with their lengths and ensure that all the units are the same. Now this is quite an important statement of ensuring that all the units are the same, because some questions might involve extra marks or might be leveled at a high level because they're getting you to combine more than one topic together. So always make sure that when you're working the perimeter or adding shape sides together, make sure that the units are the same. So make sure they're all in centimeters or millimeters or meters or kilometers or whatever. Then the next step you then need to do is just add them all together, and then the final step is don't forget to add the units of your answer. Now remembering that the units of perimeter will always be length units, they'll never be square units or cube units. Now often sides are straight, however when working with circles, and again if you're not too sure about how to work out the circumference of a circle, also known as the perimeter of a circle, there is another video which I'll put a link in for you to use. Now the formulas you need to use for anything that involves part or a full circle will be the formulas you can see on the screen. Now if you've got a full circle, now you are going to either need to know the information of the diameter of the circle or the radius. And again, if you have absolutely no idea, then I certainly would recommend that you watch my video on circumference of a circle. Now, if you're going to work out a full circle, then there's 2 formulas you can use. You can either use 2 times pi times r if you're given the radius, or you can use pi times the diameter if you're given the diameter. Now, when working out the perimeter of a semicircle, now the curved part, which is highlighted in red, can be calculated by either doing pi times the radius or pi times the diameter divided by 2, depending on what information you'll be given. Now the key thing to remember is that if you are working out the perimeter of a semicircle, that you also need to work out the diameter of the circle, which is represented by the black line. So if I was going to work out the perimeter of this total shape, I would have to add the red length plus the black line length. Now sometimes you might have a quarter circle, so if you've got a quarter circle you can either use pi times the diameter divided by 4 because it's a quarter of a circle, or you can do pi times r divided by 2. And again, all it's a case of doing is working out a semicircle and dividing that by 2, or working out a full circle and dividing that by 4. So let's have a look at some examples then. So now sometimes not all the sides are going to be labelled, so I strongly would recommend that you do that first. So here we can see that both the sides of this rectangle are in centimeters, so that's absolutely fine. And the key property of a rectangle is that opposite sides are going to be the same. So if that's 5, this is also going to be 5. And if this length here is 10, then this length here is going to be 10. So from this question, if I just number it as number 1, then the perimeter of this shape, which I'm just going to identify as letter P, is going to be 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 10. Now one thing I would suggest is you have a starting point, and then all you then need to do is just go along that shape, going along the sides, adding those numbers up, in which we go from there. So here 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 10 gives me an answer of 30, and the units are going to be centimeters. Then looking at this second question, so here I've got a triangle. Now this triangle's pretty poorly written, so I'm just going to add the fact that these 2 lengths here are going to be the same, because obviously I need to know which sides are the same. So although it looks like an isosceles triangle, are they both 6 or are they both 4? The 2 common sides, we don't know, but I now know because I've labelled it correctly. So here I'm going to label this side as 6 centimeters because the little dashes mean that those sides are the same length. So here the perimeter, so I'm going to start in this corner here, is going to be 6 plus 6 plus 4, which gives me an answer of 16 centimeters. And then moving on to our third example here, so here we've got a parallelogram. So if this side here is 9, then that means this side here is going to be 9, and this side here is going to be 7 if the opposite side is going to be 7. So here I've got P equals, and I'm going to start in this corner here, and go the way around, so go in a clockwise direction. So I've got 9 plus 7 plus 9 plus 7. So here I've got 16 plus 16, which is 32 centimeters, and there is my final answer. So let's have a look at some more examples. So here we've got a few more complicated shapes. Let's make sure they're fully on screen. So here I've got a trapezium. Now I'm going to assume that this is an isosceles trapezium, so this side here is also going to be 5. So again, picking a starting point and working through it, I've got P equals 7 plus 5 plus 2 plus 5. And it's always important that you see how many sides have you got, that's how many numbers you've got. So here I've got 7 plus 5, which is 12, plus 2, which is 14, plus 5, which is 19, and that's going to be in centimeters. For the next question here, so I'm going to assume that this is going to be 4, that's going to be 1, that's going to be 1, that's going to be 4, that's 1, and this is 1. So picking a starting point, so I'm going to pick this point here and go clockwise. So here I've got P equals 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 4. Now just to double check to make sure I've included all the right numbers, so let's go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I should have 12 numbers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got all my sides done. Now you don't have to set your work out by writing every single side. You could do it in your head or do it mentally, and that's absolutely fine. But just always double make sure that if you do have time at the end of an exam that you do check your answers. So here I've got 1 plus 1, which is 2, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20, and that's going to be 24 centimeters, and there's my final answer. Now here in this next one we've got a pentagon, so again I'm going to assume it's a regular pentagon, so I'm going to assume that all those lengths are going to be the same. So here I've got P equals 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, and I could have just done 8 times 5, which is absolutely fine, but I'd still get the same answer of 40 centimeters, and there is my final answer. Now sometimes you might get questions involving circles. Now again, what you need to remember is when you've got these types of questions, that your questions may involve more than one part. So here I've got this curved part, which I'm just going to highlight in red, but then I've also got the straight line, which I'm just going to highlight in green. Now the perimeter of this shape is the red plus the green. Now to work out the red, well, that's going to be a semicircle, so that's going to be pi times the diameter, because I've been given the diameter, which is 12, and I'm going to divide that by 2. So substituting numbers, I've got pi times 12 divided by 2, which gives me an answer of 6 pi. Now I could type that into my calculator to work out what the answer is going to be, which again I'm going to leave for now. However, I'm just going to leave it as 6 pi. So it's going to be a lot. Yeah, I know it's going to be a decimal number, so I'm going to leave it as that. Now to work out the green side, and let's get my pen back. So here the green side is just going to be 12. So the perimeter of this shape is going to be 6 pi plus 12. Now if a question asked you to write this in terms of pi, so if it was non-calculator, then this answer here would be my answer. So this is the answer in terms of pi. And again, I just need to make sure I'm writing the units, which is centimeters. And again, if I want to put that in brackets, then that's absolutely fine. However, if I was going to actually work it out as a decimal, all I need to do is just to enter 6 pi plus 12. And 6 pi plus 12 gives me an answer of 30.85. And that's going to be centimeters. And I've rounded that number up to 2 decimal places. It is a lot longer decimal number, but I'm going to leave it to 2 dp. Now working with B, let's just label this as A. So with B, I've got 3 sections that I need to work out. So the first one is this curved bit, and the second one is this length here, and the third length is this here. Now in terms of these, the blue and the green line, well I know that's 7 and 7. So what I need to do is work out what the quarter bit of the circle is going to be. Now the formula is pi times r divided by 2, or I could have done pi times d divided by 4. Now because I've been given the radius, which is 7, so here r equals 7, I'm going to use this formula here. It doesn't really matter which one we're going to do. So this little curved bit, this little red length here is going to be pi times 7 divided by 2, which gives me 7 pi over 2. So to work out the perimeter of this particular shape, what I've got is I've got 7 pi divided by 2, which is the red bit, plus 7 plus 7, which then, if I can simplify the two 7s and add them together, I get 14, and that's in centimeters, and this is my answer in terms of pi. Now let me just get rid of that pink, because I just feel as if I've just written all over the answer. Go for yellow instead. So this is the answer in terms of pi. And if I enter all of that into my calculator, which I'm just going to do now, I get an answer of 24 point, well actually it's going to be 25 when rounded. It's going to be 25.0 centimeters, and that's to 1 decimal point. Now working with C, and again if I just separate this down, so here working with C. Now with C I've got 4 parts. I've got this semicircle, and I've got this length here. I've got, I'm running out of colours, I've got this length here, and I've got this length here. Now that length is 22, the green length is 22, and this is 22. So the only thing I've then got to work out then is this semicircle. Now to work out the semicircle, that's going to be pi times the diameter divided by 2, and here the diameter is 22. I'll just put a little dot there, and that's going to be 22. So it's going to be 22 pi divided by 2, which equals 11 pi. So for C, to work out the perimeter of this shape, it's going to be the blue length, which is 11 pi, plus 22, plus 22, plus 22. Now if I join those three numbers together, I get 66. So it's going to be 11 pi plus 66 centimeters. And that is the perimeter of the shape in terms of pi. So that there is the answer in terms of pi. However, if I wanted a decimal answer, all I need to do is just simply type that into my calculator. So 11 pi plus 66 gives me an answer of 100.6 centimeters, and that's to 1 decimal place. Moving on to the next couple of questions. So here we're looking at D. Now with D, again, I've got 4 sides. So this side is 8, so that means this side is going to be 8. Now the only length I need to work out is what this semicircle is going to be. Now to work out the length of that semicircle, it's going to be pi times the diameter divided by 2. And the diameter is going to be 8, so it's pi times 8 divided by 2, which equals 4 pi. So this length here is 4 pi. So now I know the lengths of all of those 4 sides. Then the perimeter is going to be 4 pi plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, which gives me 4 pi plus 24 centimeters, and that is my answer in terms of pi. But if I type that into my calculator, I'll get my decimal answer, which is 4 pi plus 24 gives me an answer of 36.6 centimeters, and that's to 1 decimal point. Now looking at question E, so if I just separate this working out here. Now with question E, I've got quite a lot of different sides. So I've got this side here, and which is the same as this length here. And I've got these 4 straight lines, which are all 43 centimeters. So this is 43. Just rub that out because that's clearly not neat enough. So that's 43, and this is 43. So to work out the quarter circle, well, that's going to be pi times r divided by 2. So that length there and radius is 43, so that's going to be 43 pi divided by 2. And this is also going to be 43 pi divided by 2. So to work out the perimeter of this particular shape, it's going to be 43 pi divided by 2 plus 43 pi divided by 2, and they're my two red sections, plus I've got the 443, so I've got 43 plus 43 plus 43 plus 43. Now if I join these 43s together, then what I end up with is 172, and if I have 43 over pi over 2 plus another one, well, that's going to be 2 halves, which is just a whole, so that's going to be 43 pi, and that's p equals. So if I was going to write my answer in terms of pi, then that is basically what I would have on a non-calculated question. But if it was a calculated question, I'd actually need to type it in. So it's going to be 43 pi plus 172 rather, and that's going to give me 307.1 centimeters, and that's to 1 decimal place. And then looking at question F, so let's just split that up. Now with question F, I've got two semicircles. I've got this semicircle and I've got this semicircle. Now two semicircles make a full circle, so I could do this separately, which is absolutely fine. Now the diameter of this is going to be 30 because the halfway distance is 15, so the diameter is going to be 30. So this length here is going to be pi times 30 divided by 2, which is 15 pi. And this length here will also be 15 pi because it's the same. So the only two lengths I've then got to add are the 15 here and the 15 here. So the perimeter of this particular shape is going to be 15 pi plus 15 plus 15 pi plus 15. And joining those things together, I've got 15 pi plus 15 pi, which is 30 pi, and 15 plus 15, which is 30, and that's centimeters. So that there is my answer in terms of pi. And again, if I type that into my calculator to give me a decimal answer, then what I end up with is we get 100. Oh, get a pen. That equals 124.2 centimeters, and again that is to 1 decimal place. So now looking at question G, which is again a very popular question. So here you can see that if I start at this side, that this length here is 50 and this length here is 50. Now one thing I noticed is that this is a semicircle and this is a semicircle, and those lengths are the same. Now two semicircles are full circle, but I'm going to work this out separately. So here I've got the diameter, which is 30. So to work out the one of those semicircles, it's going to be pi times the diameter divided by 2, which again is going to give me 15 pi. So this here is 15 pi. So the perimeter of this shape is going to be 15 pi plus 50 plus 15 pi plus 50. And that gives me an answer of 30 pi plus 100 centimeters, and that there is my answer in terms of pi. Again, if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 194.2 centimeters to 1 decimal place. Now sometimes you might get a perimeter question that involves algebra. Now all we need to do here is basically it's basically collecting like terms. So this is virtually aka collecting like terms, in which there is a video which I'll include in a link in the description or on the video itself. So looking at question 1, now the difference with these particular questions is that if you're asked to write down the expression of the perimeter, then you need to make sure that you've got P equals. So here, looking at the square, all I've got to do is add those 4 lengths together. So here I've got P equals A plus A plus A plus A, and if I collect that up, that gives me 4A. So my final answer is P equals 4A. With question 2, if I start in this point here, I've got B plus A plus B plus A. So that gives me a final answer of P equals, and it's going to be 2A plus 2B. Let me just get rid of that equal sign there, and that there is my final answer. Then looking at question 3, again picking a starting point, I'm going to go in this direction. So here I've got A plus B. which gives me an answer of P equals 2A plus B, and that there is the perimeter. Now I don't know what the units are, so I can just leave it as an expression. So because I don't know if they're in centimeters, millimeters, or meters, so I'm just going to leave it as an actual expression. So looking at question 4, so here again I'm going to have a starting point, which is there. So question 4, I've got C plus C plus C, so P equals 3C, and there's my final answer for that one. Question 5. Again, I'm going to pick my starting point, which I'm going to pick here. So I've got A plus B plus B plus B plus B plus A. And if I collect those like terms, I've got 2A plus 4B. Now, if you were to write 4B plus 2A, that's also going to be fine. It's just we tend to write things in alphabetical order. Now, looking at question 6. Again, picking a starting point. Well, I've got 6 sides because it's a hexagon, so it's going to be P equals, it's going to be 6Q. Question 7, again picking a starting point, so it's very, very similar to question 5. So here I've got D plus A plus 2A plus 2A plus A plus D. Now, good point to think about is think about how many sides the shape got, and that's how many expressions you should have. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's absolutely fine. So P equals, looking at the A's, I've got 1, 3, 5, 6. So it's going to be 6A plus 2D, and there is my final answer. Looking at question 8, again picking a point. So here I've got 3A plus 2A plus 4B plus 2B plus B plus 3A. And I should have 6 sides, which I have. I should have 6 expressions, which again I do have. So I've got P equals, and then looking at the A's, I've got 3 plus 2, which is 5, plus another 3, which is 8A. And looking at the B's, I've got 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7B. And there is my final answer. And then looking at question 9, which again I'm struggling for space, so let me just get rid of question 1. So with question 9, again picking a starting point, I'm going in this direction. So I've got 2K plus 4G plus 4G plus 2K plus 26G. So looking at the G's first, I've got 4 plus 4 plus 26, which is 34G. And then looking at the K's, that's going to be 4K, and that equals P, and there is my final answer. So when you're working with letters, it's just a case just making sure, and obviously remembering the concept of collecting like terms. Let's just have a look at 6 more questions. So here we've got question 10. I'll try and write a bit smaller so I can fit it all on the screen. I don't know why I wrote A there. Let's get rid of that. So picking a point and going in this direction. So here I've got 3H plus 5H plus 2C plus 3H plus 5H plus 2C. Now again, although I've got, let's say, 6 terms, they're basically 4 things. So for example, this acts as 1, which is what I've got there. So looking at question 10, I've got P equals, so looking at the C's first, I've got 2C plus 2C, which is 4C. And then counting the H's, I've got 3 plus 5, which is 8, plus 3, which is 11, plus 5, which is 16H. And there is my final answer. With question 11, again, picking a point, so I've got 5A plus 2D, plus 5A plus 2D, plus 3D. Now, although you're adding the sides together, there may be, like these little signs in the middle may be negative. So although we're adding the sides, if an expression's got a negative, you need to include it as a negative, and it's just basically like collecting like terms. Now again, I'll do an example of what I mean by that. So looking at the A's, I've got 5 plus 5, which is 10A. And then looking at the D's, I've got 7D. And there's my final answer. For question 12, so again, looking at this, I've going to have 5 lots of 3R plus 2E. Now I could add them all separately, or I can notice that they're all the same. So I'm going to use brackets, in which I've got 15R plus 10E, and that equals P. And there is my final answer for 12. Now if you did add all those R's together, so 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 15, and 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. So that gives me my 10e. Now with question 13, I'm assuming this is a square, so this side is also going to be 4r plus 5p. This side is going to be 4r plus 5p, and this side here is going to be 4r plus 5p. So with question 13, I've got 4 lots of 4r plus 5p. Again, if I expand the brackets, I get 16r plus 20p, and that equals capital P. Now again, if I added the sides together, so 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 16, and 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 20, and that gives me 20p. Looking at question 14, I've got, let's just label the sides that haven't been labelled. And there we go. So question 14. So looking at the letters, I've got 3t plus 2t plus 3t plus 2t, which gives me 10t. And looking at the c's, I've got 5 plus 1 plus 5 plus 1, which gives me 12c. And there's my final answer. And then with question 15, again, I'm going to assume that this is an equilateral triangle, because it should really be labelled properly, this question. So here I've got, adding the c's together, I get 6c, and then adding the y's together, I get 3y. And there is my final answer. Now let me just go through make up a shape, and let me see if I can do this properly. So let's say, let's go for a rectangle to keep things nice and simple. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that this length of this side here, I don't know what it's turned. Let's say this length here was 10x minus 3y. And let's say this length here was 5x minus 2y. So this length here would also be 10x minus 3y. And this side here would also be 5x minus 2y. Now working out the perimeter of this, well, looking at the x's first. And again, rather than writing things down, you might want to take it separately. So I've got 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5, which is 30. That's going to be 30x. And then looking at the y's, well, I've got minus 3, minus 2, which is minus 5, minus another 3, which is minus 8, minus another 2, which is minus 10. So that's going to give me an answer of minus 10y. So although you're adding the sides together, you still may also end up with a negative as part of your expression when you're dealing with algebra. So just something just to be aware of. But remember that when you're dealing with numbers, never ever ever should any side or your answer be a negative number. It could be a fraction, it'll just never be, it could be a decimal, it just never will be negative, because you can't have negative length. Now we'll put some practice questions in the description below for you to practice everything you've learned in this video.